Okay, we're cleaning up the spindle. I got the housing here. I'm gonna put it out to soak. Let me do this down here. Okay, that's CRC Pro Strength. It's it's not excuse me, it's not as strong as the Extreme Purple Power. The Extreme Purple Power is probably too much for some or maybe most jobs. See why my hands are still clean. Pick this up. Get a little more downlight here. So there's a tapered surface midway down. There's a tapered surface here. And then there's a tapered surface on this end. And this bearing I am going to grease. There was grease in there before. It looked like it was white lithium grease. So I got the other one kind of pre-packed. And it's it'll go on in final assembly. Let's see. This goes behind the bearing, and it has kind of like what I imagine a hydraulic cylinder might have. It has a ID and OD rubber seal, and I'm gonna do my best to replace those. I can't imagine this one being the right seal for in here because it just floats around in there. It doesn't even fit the diameter. And this one here has probably is okay to reuse. So bearing, and then this has 2 little oil holes on it so that you could lubricate those seals. It's the only thing I can figure. Okay, now this is I'm going to call it a compression washer. This goes up, this actually goes up against the bearing. Let me think now. I'll have to look at the manual. I'm pretty sure this goes up against the bearing, and then this seal goes after that. And then this is the locking spring on the end, and it has a couple grooves on the end. You can get your tool in there and poke it out. So we got these to clean up, and this is just the repeat of what I just showed you. Just goes on the other side. And let's see what kind of ID seal this one has. If it matches. Yeah, it actually does kind of match that other one, so maybe that is the right. There's a lot of grease in there, so maybe they want that seated in a bed of grease. So. And then this one end has a pulley, and we'll be I'm sorry, you're not seeing any of that, are you? You know, one thing, you know, just kind of leads to the other. You look at one part, and you know, you think it could stand some improvement, and pretty soon you're off to the races. It's like the radial grinding jig. I just, you know, I just started taking it apart, and you know, within 2 hours I had the whole thing taken apart, cleaned, and put back together. And I tell you, we're much better off for it. This here, I'm just kind of pushing it through, getting the main stuff off of it. And you know, I'll go over all of this stuff, you know, with Scotch-Brite and degreaser, and then follow it up with WD-40 while it's and let it sit in that while it's awaiting what do you call it when you start putting everything? Assembly. Yeah, like I said, we'll let everything sit in WD-40, with the exception of the, you know, anything holding grease. So once again, on this side we have this is the this cockeyed spring whatever actually goes over here on this side. It goes with the live center, and so it'd be the bearing. This plate, this spring, this seal, and in this case it would be the pulley. Actually, the pulley screws on. The pulley screws on here. Where are we at? Actually, the pulley screws on there. So So it's going to be the spring, the seal, and the locking spring, for lack of terms. Okay, so we got that. Now this mounts on top of that. And it's got a worm gear in there, changing the direction, the rotation. And I'm here to tell you that thing sounds fine. I'm going to peek down in this. I'm going to peek down in here because I have a feeling that is for adding grease on that worm drive. So I'll tell you what, let's just do that right now if we can. And yes, it looks like, where's my little probe at? That is taking grease. Okay, we're just talking about how one thing leads to another, and I started spraying this with degreaser, and then I went ahead and popped this. Doesn't sound half as bad. Pop this off the bearing, and it's pretty crunchy in there. And I've started wedging this out, and I'm just assuming that this is the center is replaceable and is tapered into this 5M, it says, but that's just somebody scratched that in there. So I'm working on pulling this out without destroying anything, and I'm kind of working my way around, like this, and I've done pretty much all I can do with this leverage. I have made some headway. And this center either needs to be reground. I'm sure it could just be reground. And one day I might have the machine to do it, but in the meantime I'm going to have someone else grind it for me. But I got to get this bearing off and get that center out first. So, like I said, one thing leads to another. This is the time to fix it while it's in 1,000 pieces. And that rides in there in the pulley, in the spindle. So let me continue to work on getting that out. I'm at the point to where I can, well, tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at the manual and see what it says about replacing that center. I'm sure, you know, there's a proper tool, maybe a wedge. You know, a wedge tool that would pop that right out of there. There seems to be a bit of a flare underneath the bearing. It doesn't seem to be part of the bearing. So I don't want to get anywhere near that. And it's actually, I think this is the top part of it here, and it almost looks like a screw. And that the bearing is pressed onto that, and then that is pressed onto the center. But nothing's freeing itself right now. So who knows where we'll be next time I turn this thing on.